This is going to be a really boring sanding video, but this is my setup for sanding this tabletop, and as you can see, there are scratches that are left behind from the belt sander where I ate down the bow ties that I put in. You can see there's some gaps, and I'm learning. This was the first try, and the marking is what's really important on these. I marked them with a pencil. Just the gap that was caused by the diameter of the pencil lead being in the corner between this and this when I had it sitting on top is where I'm off. I chiseled it right to the pencil line, and that offset was too much. So I have seen in videos, other tutorials, people putting the bow tie on top and literally taking an X-Acto knife and cutting the profile of the bow tie. So next time, that's what I would do differently. I would cut right to that, and then that is the exact size for that. So what I've got here is just the result of inexperience and a lesson that has gained me experience. So the next time it will be different. So there are a few gaps here. What I'm going to do first is final sand the entire thing, 80, 120, and then 220. And you can see the shine right now is definitely a shine, but not as shiny as you'll see when I go through the grits.
Little flop-eared view.
This started out 2 days ago at the chainsaw level. So chainsaw level, then planer, which I got to do outdoors, which was so fun. Ran the planer outside, just the hand planer over it, and then belt sander to get it relatively smooth and flat. Then I cut these in. Now I'm going to do the final sanding with my random orbit through various grits. Also, after all the final sanding, the reason that I included these coasters and cutting boards in this shot is because afterwards we're going to take boiled linseed oil, and that's the finish we're going to use on all of this stuff, and it's really going to, it's just going to be so satisfying to watch, and I want to share that part with you. So please enjoy some of my grandfather and grandmother's music while I do a little time lapse and go through the grits here. Let's get to it.
We're going to the furniture business, so here's one for you here. Now, here we go.
You take a leg from old table, you take an arm from old chair, you take a neck from broken bottle, and from the horse you take long cages under, and then you put them all together with some water and some glue. You get more love from a darn old donkey than I'll ever get from you.
Okay, I've moved the camera setup so that you can see in real time how long it takes to actually remove scratch marks. I've got these long scratch marks here, and you have to remember this entire thing is end grain. So I'm going to sand those lines with this sander. So you're going to see this over and over and over again. This is 80 grit sandpaper, which normally you rough things out with 80 grit. But in this case, we have to use an aggressive grit because this is all end grain, which is going to be the hardest thing to sand no matter what you do. The actual bow tie that I put in is flat grain, so you have to be careful when you get around the edges of this because this is sanding 10 times, 100 times harder than that's going to sand. So you're got to be careful around the edges and corners of your other things. But these scratches right here are what take away from the grain. The actual growth rings are going, you can see them if you concentrate. The growth rings are going this way, and that's what we want to highlight. There's a growth ring there, and then also the spalting comes out into this, and that's a great spot to highlight on. You're going to see all of that get revealed with 80 grit, and then we'll still have 120 and 220 to go after that. But just I wanted an example of real time how long it takes to get those scratches to go. Vibration also moved the light, so I'll move that back. But now you can see mostly the scratches are gone. If you look closely, you'll still see some dullness, and that's where the 80 grit has left marks, some little swirl marks. But now you can really see that grain, the growth rings. Now that was a 4-inch square spot, and if I zoom out, I've got the entire, oh, there was the light, because it's hooked over my camera. Hold on. I've got the entire thing to sand like that. All of this for each grit. That's where the patience part comes in. Okay, here is the shine after 80 grit. Kind of move over. That's 80 grit. It's got sort of a dull shine. We're a third of the way there. This is the view of the 80 grit. So now on to 120 and then 220. We got a fresh 120 on the sander. Got the light set up, and I'll apologize ahead of time. I'm probably going to move the light around a lot, but at the end I'll give you a shot of what it looks like. So here we go.
We'll finish this off with a little something here, some kind of tune for you. Okay? Let's see, man. I'm a basketball, key G.
Alright, I'll show you what the shine looks like now. Now we're really, let me zoom in so it dulls it down. Now we're really getting that shine. You can see it's not a perfect shine. You got these tiny little swirl marks from the 120 grit, but they're even. It's a consistent sheen all the way across. See that? There's no finish on that at all. It's just sanding it. Okay, I've got a fresh 220 loaded up on the sander, and now we're going to do the final sand. I am going to do filler in there, but I'll do that after. And then I can use the grit that I'm using now to sand it out. I'll just be careful about the filler. I was just working on the edge a little bit to see how the 220 would take on that. There is our 220 shine. Almost looks like it has a finish on it. Now when you look down at it, again, the growth rings are visible. But now it's got this new level of shine where some of the tighter grain is brighter, some of the looser grain is darker, and then of course when we get back into the spalted portions, their shine is, the details are just really, really coming out. What I have to do now is fill in these gaps, and I've got an old school formula for that. It's something I got to switch my battery in the camera here, but it's called Durham's, and you can still get it. It's right back here, right there. Durham's wood filler, and I'm going to mix a little bit of that up and force it down into those cracks. It dries super fast, and I'll be able to sand it right away. Okay, so this Durham's is a wood filler, but it comes in a powder form. As you can see, it is really almost like a wood flour. It's very, almost like a regular baking flour. Now, I won't need much, and this is hard to mix because you can put too much water in it right away. I always keep these old Chinese, wash them out after we get Chinese food, and it works really well for little containers like this, little disposables. So that's just a little bit on there, and then I actually use a spray bottle of water, and I just spray. That was 4 little sprays of water, and I keep working it into the corner and mixing it around. I don't know if you've ever mixed mortar in your life or laying brick or anything like that, but there's just this tipping point where it's either just enough water or it's too much. You don't want it too much. Get the dry stuff out of the crack here. This has a nice flat bottom for mixing it. And you want an even consistency, so eventually with whatever container you're mixing this in, you might have areas that are the dry stuff gets stuck in. What I do is I get the filler that's the right consistency. It's a little bit soupy, but if I put more powder in it, it's not going to work well. So I can stay away from the water that's in there, sort of isolate the filler up here on this side. So there it is. It's like that's the perfect consistency because it'll work down into cracks. And then just work it in around the cracks. And it'll fill it nicely. Just work it down in those cracks. And you can scrape most of it right back off. We're just filling the gaps. Over here on this one. I think I might even just fill in these little cracks. This will give a fleck of color. Really wasn't much to fill here. Just that pencil width. That's all the real big gaps that there were, was the width of the pencil mark. I guess that's not too bad to be off on your first time. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. We're gonna go back, we're gonna sand. You almost can't hear my hand now. It's like glass. Beautiful. Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Okay, it's time. Uh-oh. Hold on, I got my thumb in the pinky hole. Nope, I did it right. No, maybe I didn't. Hold on, just a second. Wow, yep, here we go. Ta-da! Okay. I can't explain how exciting this is. So I'm using just regular boiled linseed oil. I don't think the company really matters. You want to shake it up good. And pop it open here. Pour it on a lint-free rag right here, which I've already wiped this down so that I know there's not any lint. Guys, I'm so excited about this. I'm just tickled pink because of the show that's about to happen, and I've got the cutting boards and the coasters ready to go too. You'll notice with the spalted portions, these are drier and they're more porous than these really tight green dark spots, but look at that already. It's funny, when you're sanding, you're staring at this, you know, for hours. And these right here, I've just been waiting to light those up. Look at that. Oh. It's funny how many times in woodworking there's the perseverance and payoff cycle is just over and over and over again. Obviously the perseverance for sanding and sanding and sanding and not missing a grit, not skipping a step, nothing like that. I will get a brush later on and work it down in these cracks, and off camera I spent quite a bit of time down in there just smoothing things out. So that first part, now this is end grain, right? I mean, its job, since it was a little maple leaf that spun down off the ground and drilled its little seed into the ground, this was made to drink. This is end grain. It was made to bring water up out of the ground. So of course, when you put an oil or any sort of liquid on top, it's going to soak right in. It's a super thirsty part of the tree. Now you can see that's end grain is. This drier part here, that'll take some more applications. What I want to do, this is sort of as a first coat, is to just wet everything. I'm gonna take a second and zoom out, so because I know that's zoomed in onto that one part. And we will see it all come to life. I knew that cherry would light up a different color. It's beautiful. So the cherry picks up on the spalted colors. And like I said, I'll come back either later tonight or in the morning, and this will almost look dry as if it wasn't wiped. And that's just because it is going to soak it in. And I will flip it over and do the other side as well. But I didn't want you to miss this. Now flip it. Just what this does over time is it will stiffen, right? So it's an oil, almost like the wax that you watched me put on the dresser restoration in the one of the last videos I did. You'll come back, this will dry, and you'll sort of buff it, and then you'll put another coat on. This will continue to soak in. In fact, some of the grain I'm sure you've been able to, like these spalted spots here, they're gonna suck it more, and then eventually, let me move this out of the way and I'll bring a cutting board over. Okay. This is also, it's two different kinds of mahogany. So there's the red mahogany, and then there's this mahogany with maple in between. So it's giving a brown tone, a white tone, and sort of a reddish. And what's great about this is when you do this, you can mix up the colors however you like, but this color is the same as that, and I just like to mix up the species and sort of, it's like a play on color. Symmetrical, but just gorgeous. You know what? I'm just going to end up with boiled linseed oil on my camera. It'll just be a little bit. So there's that side. There we go. Get the end grain on this. As soon as you soak it, consistent color. Same thing here and here. Flip this quick. And boiled linseed oil is a food safe. It's a food safe finish too. It's a little bit higher maintenance than some other finishes, but it's the kind of thing that you can sand again and just re-oil it in the future. And you can tell when it starts to dry out, it just needs a hand sand, and so there's that one. There you go. Okay. This one with the end grain. This one's not the end grain, this is flat grain. This is cherry, maple. This is cherry and maple, just different grain, different shades of the same color. Look at that. Look at that. You can see this is end grain, so it's soaking it up more, but just how beautiful. How beautiful that is. Get some more on. It's nice too, it is just boiled linseed oil. Like, I'm getting it on my hand, and I'd rather not get it on the camera, but it's a natural oil, so I'll go upstairs and just with some dish soap and just wash my hands. So there's that one. Look at that. The light's really pretty down here. And I'm not gonna worry about, this does its own, it's gonna soak in and it's gonna need another coat anyway. Oh, wait till you see this end grain. Look at that. Good goodness. Perfect little cheese board. It's not huge. Show you the edges again. That edge. Just wipe them. Now these are all sanded also to 220 like we did that tabletop. So there's that. Lord almighty. Oh, it's slippery. All right, I've got little pinpoint things that I'm setting those on so that the pieces of wood that they're on won't actually soak it up. A while back on Instagram, I did do a post about a piece of old growth wood. If you can imagine on a barn, you've got your main beams, and then you've got purlins basically that tie those together horizontally. This is a slice of one of those, and this is one of those, you can look back on my earlier post, but this is really going to soak it up. The growth rings on this are the tightest growth rings I have ever seen in my entire life. And so I'm just going to rub these down. I love how really this is just an oil, and I'll do a comparison in a second. That is cut. This is the same cut, it's just no oil on it. And that's not a stain. It's just bringing the tannins in that. The growth rings are so tight, it's like all the dark that you see here, all the dark lines are so tight together that the entire section is dark. It's just awesome. So I'm going to finish soaking these out, and then I'll do a camera shot of everything that we put a coat on. That tabletop is already looks dry because it's soaked it in. But I guess I can I'll make the rest of this a time lapse for you guys. But I'm not stopping right now and touching the camera until after I wash my hands. So, cue the music.
We'll finish this off with a little something here, some kind of tune for you. Okay? Let's see, man. I'm asking, I'll give G.